Good morning. Welcome to our Dharma service, chaired by the high school class. It's very nice to see all of you here in person. And welcome to those joining us online. We want to welcome the members of the Vista Buddhist Temple Dharma School who are visiting us today. Can the Vista members please stand up? Also, we would like to introduce Trisha Carino, who will accompany us on our gaffas for her very first time. We will start today's service with a silent meditation led by Reverend Smitty, followed by sutra chanting of Sa.turday, which can be found on page 35 of the Blue Service Book.
Kansho, the moon never fails to shine on all things. Namo Amida, Namo Amida, Namanda, 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 Namanda. Kansho segan hishimu jodo shigan fumanzok sehujo shogak gao muryoko huidai seshu Fusai shobingu sehujo shogak gashi jobundo myosho chojipo kukyo mishomon sehujo shogak Ryoku Jin Shonen Jo Eshu Bongyo Shigu Mujodo Isho Tenin Shi Jinriki Endaiko Husho Musaido Shoujo san kumyo kosai shuyakunan kaihi chiegen meshi konmo an heisoku sho akudo tsudan zen shumon koso jo manzok iyoro jipo nichigan chujuki tenko onpugen ishu kai hozo kose kudoku ho jo odai shuchu seppo shishiku kuyo isai but gusoku shutoku hon gan e shinjo man tokui sangai o nyo buten muge chi tsudan mi husho ganga ku erik toshi sai sho son shiganya koka daisen o kando koku shotenin to uchin myoke namandabu 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 ganishikudoku yodo seisai dohoden bodaishin ojo Yasho namandab 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 namandab.
Please stand for recitation of gratitude for Jodo Shinshu teaching, which can be found as an insert in the blue service book. Namo Amida Butsu. Entrust yourself to me. I will liberate you just as you are. This is the calling voice of Amida. My blind passions are embraced in the Buddha's awakening. So the Buddha calls to me, I will liberate you just as you are. Gratefully responding to the Buddha's call, I find that I am ready on a path that leads to the Pure Land, and the Nembutsu flows freely from my thankful heart.
Living with the Dharma as my guide softened my rigid heart and mind. Gratitude for the gift of life I have received frees me from becoming lost in greed and anger, and allows me to share a warm smile and speak gentle words, sharing in the joy and sadness of others. I shall strive to live each day to its fullest. Kansho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please be seated. Now we will hear a Dharma School message from Reverend Smitty.
First, some water. Well, hello. Good morning to everybody. And I'd particularly like to welcome the Vista Dharma School and other members of the Vista Temple who are here today. As many of the San Diego Dharma students know, I sometimes like to start my Dharma talks with pop quizzes just to see who's paying attention. That's both during services and during classes. So, since not everybody was ready for my last quiz, I'll have a bit of a do-over today with a couple of the questions. That way you have a chance to redeem yourselves if you had some struggles last time. So, ready? Okay, here's the first question. What is the theme of BTSD's Dharma School year? Compassion. All right, I heard a lot of them being shout out now, so I guess you were paying attention the last couple of weeks, right? Okay, good. All right, second question. Who is the Buddha of wisdom and compassion? Go ahead. Amida Buddha is the Buddha of wisdom and compassion. Excellent. You know, I think some people thought that was a trick question last time. So, yeah. One more. Okay. One more question then. All right. Well, I'm great that you're eager to have another question. Now for the third and the most difficult question. Okay, you asked for it. One more. All right. On the Onaijin, we represent Amida's wisdom and compassion with items we place on the altar. The candles represent wisdom because candles radiate light and they allow us to see through the darkness, and that means they illuminate our ignorance or our lack of understanding of things. And these items up on the Onaijin represent life and symbolize compassion. So what are the items that symbolize compassion? The flowers. All right. Ooh, got some great students here this year. Incense, we often say that the incense represents our appreciation for the Dharma and for the wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. And it also reminds us of impermanence. But the flowers in particular, well, they also can remind us of impermanence and the beauty in life. They are there to symbolize the compassion that we experience. Okay, so yay, that's great. I mean, that's 3 for 3. Good job today. So please join me in Kansho. The moon has risen in the sky. Light of great compassion guides me on my way. The heart of Amida, shining like the moon, is full of beauty and serenity. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, 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 Namandab. Okay, that's actually OCBC's translation of Tsukigadeta, or The Moon Has Risen, from their Shin Buddhist service book. And that translation is sung as a verse when the Gatha is used in services at the Orange County Temple. And we'll sing Tsukigadeta a little bit later this morning, but before we get to that, I'd like to share a Jataka tale that has something to do with the moon. So the Jataka are teaching stories in Buddhism, and Jataka tales encompass some 550 or so anecdotes and fables. And that very term, Jataka, translates to birth story in the Pali language. And these are tales said to be about the previous lives of Shakyamuni, or the historical Buddha, in which he was developing those qualities of heart and mind that led to his final human incarnation and full awakening as a Buddha. And so the Jataka tales are among the most ancient stories collected in human history, and they date back to the 4th century BCE, more than 2,500 years ago. And Theravada Buddhism makes reference to the Buddha recalling his previous lives in some of the early Pali texts. Although today, Jataka are usually considered to be more based on folklore or stories that were told in ancient India, and more so than the actual sermons that were given by Shakyamuni Buddha. But there's a story among the tales about the rabbit and the moon. Some of you might have heard about this before. And in some cultures, the craters of the moon are seen as forming sort of the face of a person. So we might say the man in the moon. But in Asia, it's more common to see the image of a rabbit or a hare. And so this is a story of the hare or the rabbit in the moon. So long ago, the bodhisattva who would become Shakyamuni Buddha was reborn as a hare or rabbit. And he lived in a leafy forest among soft, tender grasses and delicate ferns, and surrounded by climbing vines and sweet wild orchids. And the forest was rich with fruits, and it bordered a river of pure water that was absolutely blue in color. And this forest was a favorite of wandering ascetics, or people who withdraw from the material world to focus on their spiritual journeys. And these ascetics lived on food that they begged from others. So the people of that time considered giving alms or food to the holy wanderers to be their sacred or special duty that they would participate in. That was the dana they practiced at the time. And so the bodhisattva hare had 3 friends, a monkey, a jackal, and an otter, who looked to the wise rabbit sort of as their leader of the group. And he taught them the importance of keeping the moral laws and observing the holy days and of giving the alms or making offerings to others. And whenever a holy day approached, the rabbit would tell his friends that if someone asked them for offerings of food, they were to give freely and generously from the food that they had gathered for themselves. So it's like having your lunch at school and maybe somebody doesn't have any food and asks for some, and so you give freely of what you have because they don't have anything. So there was one day when Sakra, the lord of the Devas, was watching these 4 friends from his great palace of marble and light high on a peak of Mount Meru. And on one holy day, he decided to test their virtue and see if they were really as generous and caring animals as they were said to be. So that day, the 4 friends separated to go find their food, and the otter found 7 red fish on the riverbank. The jackal found a lizard and a vessel of curdled milk that somebody had abandoned. Had probably abandoned curdled milk too. The monkey gathered mangoes from the trees that grew in the forest. And Sakra took the form of a Brahmin, or a priest, and he went to the otter and said, "Friend, I'm hungry. I need food before I can perform my priestly duties. Can you help me?" And the otter offered the Brahmin the 7 fish that he had gathered for his own meal, just as the wise rabbit had advised him. Then the Brahmin went to the jackal and said, "Friend, I'm hungry. I need food before I can perform my priestly duties. Can you help me?" And the jackal offered the Brahmin the lizard and the curdled milk that he had planned to have for his own meal. And the Brahmin then went to the monkey and said, "Friend, I'm hungry. I need food before I can perform my priestly duties. Can you help me?" And the monkey offered the Brahmin the juicy mangoes that he had looked forward to eating himself. Then the Brahmin went to the rabbit and asked for food. But the rabbit had no food except for the lush grasses that were growing in the forest, and realized that a human wouldn't be interested in eating the grasses. So the bodhisattva told the Brahmin to gather some dry wood and build a fire. And when the fire was burning brightly with large hot flames, the rabbit said, "I have nothing to give you to eat but myself." And then the rabbit threw himself onto the fire. So Sakra, still disguised as the Brahmin, was astonished and deeply moved by this act. And so he caused the fire to go instantly cold so that the rabbit wasn't burned, and then revealed his true form to the selfless little bunny. And he said, "Dear rabbit, your virtue will be remembered through the ages." And then Sakra painted the wise rabbit's likeness on the pale face of the moon so everybody could see it. And Sakra returned to his home on Mount Meru, and the 4 friends lived long and happily in their beautiful forest. And to this day, those who look up at the moon can see the image of that selfless rabbit. So, The Rabbit and the Moon is a folktale that teaches us the importance of sharing with those who are less fortunate than we are, as well as illustrating that power of self-sacrifice. And to me, it's an amazing story to foster compassion toward those who are less fortunate, both in terms of empathy and goodwill toward others. But maybe this story also explains why everybody always offers food to ministers in BCA, because it's sort of assumed that we need the food before performing our priestly duties, I guess. I wouldn't expect anyone to sacrifice themselves the way the little rabbit did, but even offering your lunch to someone who's less fortunate, as the monkey, the jackal, and the otter did, would be an act of compassion. But just no lizards or curdled milk for me, please. So please join me in Kansho as we respond with the Nembutsu in gratitude for the wisdom and compassion which embrace us always. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, Namandab, Namandab.
Thank you, Sensei, for your beautiful message. Please stand for the Gatha Tsuki ga Dera, which means moon is rising, found on page 148 of the service book. The translation can be found on page 149. Thank you. You may be seated. We will now have the installation of the Sangha Teens cabinet. Will the cabinet members and advisors please come up in Oshoko?
Hello, my name is Avis Honda, and I am the advisor for the Sangha Teens. Sangha Teens is a youth group for our Dharma School students in the grades 6th through 8th grade. Now I will introduce to you our 2023-2024 Sangha Teens cabinet. When I call your names, please come up and offer incense, and then please stay up here. Okay, our president for this year is Juliana Cruz. Our vice president is Kobe Kawahara. Our treasurer is Jack Schultz. Okay. Our secretary is Mateo Mascola. The assistant advisor will be Kimberly Cruz, and our ministerial advisor will be Reverend Smitty.
Okay, thank you, Avis, for getting very positioned here. You, the newly elected officers of Sangha Teens of the Buddhist Temple of San Diego, in accepting this office, take upon yourselves certain responsibilities toward your Sangha and temple. Are you willing to forego some of your personal desires for the common good? Are you determined to do your part during your term in office in spreading the ideals of Shin Buddhism by living by its core values? Will you provide your best effort and treat all others fairly and with respect? Your participation in serving this group with the values of Shin Buddhism will enhance your life and those of your fellow members. If you take these responsibilities, okay, you're already facing the Naijin and have your hands in Kansho then. Please repeat the following affirmation. I take office in the Sangha Teens of the Buddhist Temple of San Diego. I accept my responsibilities and affirm my aspiration to the teachings of the Buddha as my guide. Namo Amida Butts, Namo Amida Butts, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Thank you. Turn around, and you have your new cabinet members of the Sangha Teens.
Yay, congratulations to the new Sangha Teens cabinet. If there are any children out there who are interested in participating, please let these new cabinet members know. At this time, if anyone has any announcements, please come forward. Okay, so for now, I have an announcement. The Junior IBA will be hosting our annual Halloween party on, I believe, October 26th. That is a Saturday, I think. The time, the 28th. That is a Saturday. And the time, do you know the time? 5 o'clock. So, show up on your best costumes and your brightest smiles, and we'll see you there.
Good morning. On behalf of the Buddhist Temple of San Diego Dharma School, I'd like to welcome our visitors from the Vista Buddhist Temple Dharma School. It's really wonderful to have you all here with us. I've been in San Diego since '96, and I have fond memories of many exchanges like this. I don't know how long these temples have been doing it, but it's a wonderful tradition. We rotate every year, so hopefully next year we'll be visiting the Vista Buddhist Temple. And the other highlight is, as Smitty Sensei alluded to, the food. So there's also a wonderful meal that we share. So I hope that everyone can join us in the annex hall afterwards for a potluck lunch. Even if you didn't bring anything, it's okay. And hope you'll join us. Thank you. Thank you, Vista, for coming.
Good morning. I'm Terry Omori, and I'm from the Vista Buddhist Temple, but I grew up here at San Diego Temple, so it's nice to be back. I just, on behalf of the Buddhist Temple of our Vista Dharma School, thank you so much for inviting us to this exchange. Sensei Sharon mentioned that, what you said, 1996? Well, actually, I want to say probably about that 96, 97-ish. That's when we started this exchange, actually. It was a time when Vista Buddhist Temple, we were without a resident minister, 97, 98. And the minister here at the San Diego Temple was Reverend Akio Miyagi, and he was our supervising minister. However, he came just for special services, and we really wanted our Dharma School students to see their sensei, their minister. So in talking with my brother Ralph, I asked if we invited the entire San Diego Sangha, would they come up to Vista for service on a Sunday? And he goes, sure. And that started the exchange, and it's been wonderful. And so next year, we of course welcome all of you to come up to Vista, but we're very happy to be here. During the pandemic, we did have an exchange via Zoom, so hopefully for our students, they'll be able to meet the students that they saw on their computer in person. So thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. So the Dharma School is a designated drop-off we're doing a stuffed animal donation to benefit Ronald McDonald House Charities and UCSD Health. So on October 21st, between 9 and 11, if you would like to donate a stuffed animal, we will be collecting them at that time. You can also bring them before and drop them off somewhere in the office. Also, too, the Dharma School will be hosting, all Dharma School students and families are invited to help at Feeding San Diego on November 4th at Feeding San Diego starting at 9 o'clock, and we'll send an email out. Thank you.
Good morning. Just a quickie announcement. Back in the, foyer, we have permission to put some items out from the Obonagan shop, which, of course, benefits our scholarship fund. So there's just a miscellany of stuff. I haven't priced anything. There's a jar there if you want anything there. Just put something in the jar, and that'll help fatten up our scholarship fund. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning, everyone. One quick announcement. Yesterday, the Southern District Buddhist Temples had their annual conference in Pasadena. So it was very nice. There were a handful of us that went up to the event and others who Zoomed in. And it was really nice to see Reverend Gibbs at his home temple in Pasadena. And the keynote speaker was Kenji Sensei. So it was nice, very nice to see Kenji Sensei. And Karen was also a speaker, but unfortunately she could not attend. She had a bout with COVID, so she couldn't make the trip to Pasadena, but she was able to record her message to the attendees. So it was a nice outing for everybody. And just keep in mind that next year our San Diego Temple will host a Buddhist conference in October of 2024. So there'll be more announcements coming up. So just to save the date, because that's the theme for next year's conference. Thank you.
Are there any more announcements? No? All right. So then at this time, San Diego and Vista Buddhist Temple Dharma School students and staff may come up and offer incense before going to their classes. After Dharma School has departed, the service will continue with Mr. Ralph Honda as chairperson. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning again, everyone. And we will now continue with the adult portion of the service. And we will begin with the recitation of the Vandana Tisarana, and that can be found on page 96 of the service book. And Smitty Sensei will lead us in the reading.
I realize that there's parts labeled leader and Sangha, but I'd like everybody to join in with me as we chant the Vandana and Tisarana together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Kansho, Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Thank you. At this time, Reverend Smitty will share her Dharma message.
Tell you, earlier when the Dharma School students from both temples were all here, I felt like I was at a Taylor Swift concert. And now that they've all left, I feel like I'm at a Barry Manilow concert. The group is a little more sparse and a little bit older, so we'll go with what we have now. Please join me in Kansho. Everywhere Amida casts light, immeasurable, boundless, unhindered, unequaled, light Lord of all brilliance, pure light, joyful light, the light of wisdom, light constant, inconceivable, light beyond speaking, light excelling sun and moon, is sent forth, illumining countless worlds, multitudes of beings, all receive the radiance. Namo Amida Butts. Namandab, Namandab, Namandab. So good morning again. The passage that I just shared is from Shinran Shonin's Shoshinge, or the Hymn of True Shinjin and the Nembutsu. And it's found at the end of the chapter of True Practice in Kyogo Shinsho. And it mentions that the light of Amida excels the sun and the moon. So in case you haven't caught on, I've been focusing on the moon today. And so two things that conspired to send me in this direction for today's Dharma talk. First, Trish, who's playing piano for us today, chose to play Tsuki ga Deta, or The Moon Has Risen, for our first gatha. We haven't sung that one in a while, so we were singing a gatha about the moon. And secondly, we experienced a partial annular solar eclipse here in San Diego yesterday morning. And an annular solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, and it covers the sun's center, leaving this sun's visible outer edges to form a ring of fire or an annulus around the moon. And viewing from San Diego, the sun was only about 70% obscured, so it wasn't a total eclipse. But it was pretty cool to see nonetheless, while wearing your appropriate safety glasses, of course. And the moon plays an important part in Jodo Shinshu teachings. Shinran tells us that Nagarjuna, who was one of the 7 Pure Land masters, uses imagery that involves the moon to help us to understand the Dharma, or the ultimate truth. In his commentary on the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, Nagarjuna writes, with regard to relying on the meaning itself is beyond debate of such matters as like against dislike, evil against virtue, falsity against truth. Hence, words may indeed have meaning, but the meaning is not the words. Consider, for example, a person instructing us by pointing to the moon with his finger. To take words to be the meaning is like looking at the finger and not at the moon. The person would say, I'm pointing to the moon with my finger in order to show it to you. Why do you look at my finger and not at the moon? Similarly, words are the finger pointing to the meaning. They are not the meaning itself. Hence, do not solely rely upon the words. And this passage often reminds me of trying to get a dog to understand when we point at something. So if I point at my furry nephew Leo's chew toy, the dog will usually come up to me and sniff or lick my hand instead of going toward the chew toy. I'm very much like Leo the dog at times, my doggo nephew, in that I tend to look at the finger instead of what the finger's pointing to. In Nagarjuna's explanation, I'm often focusing on the words instead of the meaning behind the words, where the words are guiding me toward. I see the finger, but I fail to realize that it's pointing to the moon, just like Leo, who sees the finger but doesn't realize it's pointing toward his chew toy. Jodo Shinshu priest and scholar Takamaro Shigaraki, who was the teacher of some of my teachers, wrote about this imagery of the finger and the moon. And Shigaraki sensei says, "The moon gleams high in the heavens of the night sky. We ordinary beings, however, are always looking downward as we walk about, and so we do not look up into the sky. The teaching of the Buddha is like the person who taps us on the shoulder and, pointing to the moon with their finger, urges us to look up at it. So the truth, the realm of enlightenment, is always there, but we're too preoccupied with our own circumstances to notice and pursue it. The moon is present in the sky, but we aren't looking for it, or we don't know where to look for it just on our own." Shigaraki sensei continues, "The teaching of Buddhism and the words that express it correspond to the finger in this illustration. The moon, which glitters high in the distant sky far beyond the finger, represents the ultimate value of truth, or suchness. And it is the awakening or enlightenment that Shakyamuni Buddha experienced himself. Between the finger and the moon lies a vast distance. As a result, we're able to see the moon for the first time only because of the finger, in concrete terms, only through the words or the teachings expounded by Shakyamuni Buddha, or through the human personality of those who have learned the teaching and have walked the path before us." So Shakyamuni Buddha had awakened through his own arduous practices. But how was he to explain something that only he had experienced? It's like having a migraine and trying to explain the pain and sensations to someone who's never even had a headache. But the Buddha spent the rest of his life trying to direct us to the truth, trying to show us the way to enlightenment. And Shigaraki sensei continues by saying, if we were to look up into the heavens on our own, we might not look toward the moon. Without question, there must be a finger, the Dharma or the person who can relate it to us, that can teach us about the moon. For us, the story of Amida Buddha is that finger. The entire teaching of Amida Buddha is the finger, but the teaching is not Amida Buddha itself. All of the many teachings that expounded Amida Buddha constitute the finger. The realm of awakening or enlightenment the Shakyamuni Buddha realized in his own life, as well as the ultimate truth value, constitute that moon. Once again, the teaching of Amida Buddha is the finger pointing toward the moon or enlightenment. Moreover, the primal vow and the name of Amida, which are the key features of the Pure Land Sutra's teaching of Amida Buddha, are also mere fingers to point to the extent that they are discussed with words. They are not the moon itself. The point is clearly taught to us by Shinran-sama. And the finger that points to the moon might be Dharma talks you listen to. It might be lectures you attend, whether in person or on Zoom. It might be a class that you took or a book that you read. It might be the Dharma School classes that you attended in your youth. All of these are guiding us to the truth. Of course, there's a bit of paradox in the finger pointing to the moon. We can't see the finger without the light coming from the moon. We also can't see the moon without the finger that points toward it. So in this illustration, we need both the finger and the moon for either to have meaning. We need the words of the teaching and the ultimate truth itself for either to have real meaning in our lives. And as my good Dharma buddy, Reverend Blaine Higa said, The Nembutsu is the activity of Amida Buddha, which connects us to the moon. It's the ultimate reminder of the world of awakening that is always present in our lives. Amida Buddha, as Namo Amida Butsu, is our simple yet profound practice of living within the embrace of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing compassion that sustains our lives. When I went outside yesterday morning to view the solar eclipse, I kept my eyes cast downward so not to cause retinal burns or eclipse blindness. I could sense where the sun was, but I definitely couldn't see the moon because of the brightness of the sun. And when I put on my eclipse viewing eye protection, I could no longer see where I was walking or the obstacles in my path. It was only when I looked up in the direction of the light in the cloudy and semi-darkened sky that I could see the moon passing over the sun, looking like a big bite had been taken out of the brightly shining orb. To know where to look for the moon, I needed something to point me in the right direction. And in this case, it wasn't a finger pointing the way, but the unblocked light that was still radiating from the sun that still reached me. Yet as Shinran tells us, the unfathomable light of Amida surpasses the light of both the sun and the moon. Amida's light of wisdom can't be eclipsed, not by the moon, not by the clouds or mist, not by our greed or hatred or our ignorance. Amida's light shines into the dark crevices of our delusional minds, illuminating our true selves and enveloping us and showing us that we aren't that far from the moon. We aren't that far from ultimate truth. We aren't so separate from enlightenment itself. So please join me once again in Kansho. Everywhere Amida casts light immeasurable, boundless, unhindered, unequaled, light lord of all brilliance, pure light, joyful light, the light of wisdom, light constant, inconceivable, light beyond speaking, light excelling the sun and the moon is sent forth, illuminating countless worlds. The multitudes of beings all receive the radiance. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, 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 Namandab.
Thank you very much, Smitty Sensei, for your message on the symbolisms of the moon and the connections that it has for our Buddhist awakening. At this time, will everyone please rise for the Gatha Ondok-san? And in the service book, it can be found on page 128. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we'll all please put your hands together for a closing meditation. A family is a place where a mind lives with other minds. If those minds love each other, the home will be a beautiful place, will be as beautiful as a flower garden. The teachings of the Buddha. Kansho, Namo Amida.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida.
Namo Amida. Well, this concludes our service for today. I'd like to thank all of you for attending, and thank you to Reverend Smitty for officiating, and to the minister's assistants for their help this morning, and to our musician, Tricia. Thank you for playing the piano. I hope all of you will join us this morning down for lunch over in the Annex Hall. I believe we're a little early, so if you'd like to mingle and so forth, you're welcome to do so. I think lunch is going to start at around approximately 11:30. So thank you for attending today, and you're welcome to Oshoko as you leave the Hondo. Thank you.